About 1,000 years ago, the legendary heroine Sharon defeated a harsh dragon and saved the world. They named a village after her, Sharon. There was a lake in the middle of the village. It was called the Dragon's Tears. The children of the village grew up with stories of the great heroine Sharon. Each of them knew that because of Sharon, they were currently living and prospering. Aru knew Sharon's story as well. She dreamed that one day she too would become a warrior. The girl was proud of her heroine, Sharon. Aru shuddered and the jug fell out of her hands. "And what were you doing anyway? Couldn't you have walked more carefully? I mean, you broke my favorite jug. Why did I bring those children into my house? You and your brother are no different from your negligent parents. I am so sick of you," shouted Mrs. Chloe. "Go wash the dishes at least. You'll do some good." The woman shook her fists irritably. Aru walked over to the tub of dirty dishes and stood over it for a second. It hurt the girl to hear such unpleasant words. Unfortunately, the time when she was really happy was long gone. When Aru's parents were still alive, they often played with their children. They even made them wooden swords and sewed their costumes. The girl often remembered her parents and longed for them. Guess who? From behind, her brother Zephyr came up to the girl and covered her eyes. "Aru, did you really cry again?" Zephyr wondered. "No, I'm not crying. Why would you think that? It's just that water got in my eyes while I was doing the dishes. Are you done with your chores?" the girl asked her brother. She wanted to change the topic of conversation to something else. "Yes, I've been done for a while now, and I didn't come to you empty-handed." Zephyr held out a small bundle of cookies to his sister. He knew the girl was very fond of chocolate chip cookies. "Zephyr, thank you so much for the sweets. You really made me happy. How glad I am to have you by my side." Aru took out a bag of gold coins. This money she secretly kept in the bottom drawer of her dresser. Aru knew that eventually she and her brother would have to leave this house. This money could come in handy for them. Suddenly, the girl heard a scream. She looked out of the room and saw her aunt and uncle. They were arguing vigorously about something. The uncle was very drunk. "That asshole told me that I have to pay him all my debts. If I don't, he promises to take our house and all our property," shouted the uncle. "Damn, what's with all the yelling? What's going on here?" A yawning Zephyr walked up to Aru. "We don't have that much money. What are we going to do now?" the man asked his consort. Suddenly his gaze fell on his niece. "That's right, we have the beautiful Aru," exclaimed the man enthusiastically. "Get over here. That old creep wanted to get married. If he finds out that I found him a young wench, he'll be overjoyed. If he marries Aru, he'll be sure to write off all my debts." The man squeezed his niece's hand tightly, not giving her a chance to leave. "Aru, run away from here!" Zephyr shouted and pushed his uncle away from his sister. A fight ensued. The girl grabbed a bag of money and a few dresses. Throwing the things into her bag, she hurriedly left the house. Near the exit, the girl encountered a flame. It glistened and shimmered. It seemed to be a living thing. Suddenly, there was an explosion, and the whole house was engulfed in flames. "My house is on fire! All my possessions are burning before my eyes!" the man exclaimed. His wife advised him to leave the house as soon as possible, or else they would burn in it together. Aru froze on the first floor. Flames were blazing around her, not allowing her to pass. The girl felt her lungs being torn apart by pain. She was short of air. Suddenly, the flames took on a human form and touched the girl's face. "Lady Aru," shouted a man in a long white cloak who burst into the house. He stepped between her and the flames. Aru felt weakness in her whole body and fell to the floor, unconscious. When the guy in the white cloak opened his eyes, there was no one beside him. "Shit, she's gone," mumbled the guy. "Here we meet," whispered the dragon. He decided to carry the girl back to his castle. Aru dreamed again that she was on the battlefield. She had to fight a dragon-like entity. This dream had haunted her for months on end. Sometimes it seemed to her that it was not a dream, but something like a memory. Opening her eyes, she was glad that it was just a dream. Turning her head sideways, Aru realized that she was not alone in bed. There was a man sleeping next to her. And who is this man? And where am I anyway? Frightened, the girl thought to herself as she lifted herself up on the bed. Aru jumped off the bed and picked up a tall candlestick. A short while later, the man also got up on the bed. After looking around with his hand, he realized that the girl had gone somewhere. The last thing I remember is that my uncle wanted to marry me off to some old man. This man is quite young. Did my uncle change his mind and decide to sell me to him? The girl thought to herself. The man got out of bed and headed to the corner where Aru was hiding. The girl swung the candlestick, intending to hit him. Suddenly, the man literally vanished into thin air. "I'm here," the man whispered in the girl's ear. Aru froze fearfully in place. She had never seen someone move so fast. Taking advantage of the girl's confusion, the man snatched the candlestick from her hands. He swung his hand and immediately all the candles lit up with small flames. "What's going on? How is this even possible?" the girl marveled. "Wait, is that you, the man in the white robe who suddenly appeared in my house?" asked Aru. She jabbed her finger right into the man's face. "And if it's you, then that means you saved me," the girl muttered embarrassedly. Aru suddenly remembered that it was unseemly to poke fingers into a man's face. "You're not hurt? It was very dangerous out there, and I only survived because of you. May I know your name?" "My name is Dusk." Suddenly the girl's stomach rumbled. She was very hungry. "Come on, I'll feed you," said Dusk and led the girl to the dining room. Aru was surprised not only by the abundance on the table, but also by the surroundings. The girl managed to notice that the house looked more like a castle. It was decorated with stucco and expensive paintings. Also, the girl was surprised by the owner of the house. He was dressed in traveling clean clothes, but absolutely did not know how to use cutlery. He seemed to be out of this world. "To be honest, I've never heard of a mansion like this. Could you please tell me where it is located?" the girl asked. "This mansion is not far from where you lived," answered Dusk. "Besides me, there were also people in that house. I'm wondering what became of them, and I'm especially curious about the young man. Because of the flames that blocked my way, I never got to see what happened to him," mumbled Aru. "When I entered the house, I didn't see anyone but you," Dusk admitted. "Didn't anyone else manage to get out of that burning house?" the girl whispered and wept bitterly. "I noticed that the area of your house is just huge. Do you really live here alone? Don't you have any family? I think you must be lonely." Aru had been chatting nonstop for hours now. Of course, having a family can't always be something good. I still cringe at the thought that I was going to be sold as some kind of thing. Isn't that a bit over the top? My uncle lost my parents' entire estate. He's been siphoning off my money on a daily basis. I realize I'm probably boring you with my talk, but when I talk, I feel better. Thank you for listening to me. Don't you remember anything? Maybe some memory has popped into your head? Let's say of me, or of this place." Dusk asked the girl. "I don't remember very well what happened to me after I lost consciousness. But if I remember anything before I get home, I'll tell you about it right away," Aru promised. "No, you can't leave here. I won't let you go this time either." Dusk thought to himself. He wanted to rip the girl into little pieces, but reminded himself that it was too early to do anything. "Mr. Dusk, you have no idea how grateful I am to you for saving my life. I will never forget your kindness. You really are a very good person." Smiling sweetly, Aru said. The man in the white cloak ran up to the protective barrier and hit it with a slash. The barrier cracked but withstood the blow. Damn, the defense here is too strong. But no matter what, I have to save Lady Aru. The man in the white cloak thought to himself and struck the defense barrier again. Suddenly, an earthquake started in the manor. Dusk thought in surprise that someone very persistent was trying to break through to his lands. He was confident that the protective barrier would withstand any impact. Suddenly, a nearby column cracked and shattered into small pieces. Dusk took his true form and covered the girl. Fortunately, she did not have time to notice his metamorphosis. When the earthquake stopped, Dusk helped the girl up from the ground. Aru was surprised to note to herself that there was not a single scratch on Dusk's body. Her arms, on the other hand, were completely covered in small abrasions and bruises. "Please forgive my tactlessness, but we need to get out of here," said Dusk and picked the girl up in his arms. He covered her eyes with his hand and carried her to another place. "That's it. We're safe now." Dusk took his hand away from the girl's eyes. "And about our interrupted conversation. If you're not happy with the house you lived in, there's no need for you to go back there. You can stay here in my house. You said yourself that you were to be sold to a man you did not wish to be your soulmate. Perhaps those men who dislike you will once again intend to take advantage of you. I don't want you to go through something like that again." "Mr. Dusk, thank you for your concern for me. It truly touches me to the core. I have one favor to ask of you. Could you go back to the house first? I want to take a little walk by myself," the girl asked. Dusk decided to go back to his study. Suddenly, through the window, he saw the girl running towards the main gate. Aru was running with all her legs through the forest. She was thinking about the many strange things happening around her lately. What is this castle, anyway? Why is nothing known about it? Why is it located in such a sparsely populated place? Also, the girl was frightened by the owner of the house. He lived in a large castle without relatives or servants. Something about his appearance was frightening and repulsive. It seemed to the girl that he was only trying to be a good man, hiding his real self. What if this isn't a man, but the truest monster? Suddenly he's going to fatten me up and then eat me? There's clearly something fishy going on here. If I stay in this house, I'll definitely die. Dusk soared into the sky and watched the girl's movements. "It's foolish to hope that you'll be able to escape me, Sharon," mumbled Dusk. "Chief Priest, urgent report. There has been a fire of unknown nature in the mountains to the northwest, in the village of Chiron. The guardian who was in those surroundings reacted immediately." The spies who came running in exclaimed, "So he has returned. The dragon that Sharon destroyed by sacrificing her life, nicknamed the natural disaster, has reappeared," concluded the priest. "But it is unclear to me how such a thing could ever happen. We should remember our purpose. We must find the heart before he does. Fortunately, we still have some time. We were lucky the dragon didn't have time to put a heart in his chest last time. But it's important to remember that this is our last chance. We can't let him use the heart this time. It must be taken at all costs." Walking through the forest, Aru came to the ruins of some building. The girl decided to look around, for when would she ever see such beauty again? In the middle of the ruins, Aru noticed someone's old grave. She wondered who could have been buried here. There doesn't seem to be anyone taking care of this grave. The girl wanted to remove the ivy from the cross, but suddenly it glowed with a bright light. Suddenly, the grave cross scattered and a huge sword soared into the sky. A strong earthquake started again. The ground under Aru's feet was covered with deep cracks. The girl felt herself falling into the abyss. "Oh, I'm alive after all, and that's good to know," Aru thought as soon as she opened her eyes. Looking around, the girl noticed a sword lying on the ground. Suddenly, from somewhere above, a dragon fell into the pit. Its entire body was covered with small, bleeding wounds. When Dusk opened his eyes, he thought he saw Sharon in front of him. "Mr. Dusk, you woke up after all?" Aru exclaimed. Dusk noticed the sword in the girl's hands. He wondered where she got it. Suddenly, Sumrak realized that he was tied to a tree. "You see, you fell out of the sky so suddenly, and you were also in that guise. Anyway, I was so scared that I decided to tie you up with a vine," explained the girl. "I'm not going to do anything to you, so you better let me go," asked Dusk. "No, I'm not going to untie you until you explain to me what's going on. Explain to me who you really are and what my purpose here is. Also, I want to know how I can get home." Aru held her sword out in front of her. "The only thing I can tell you is that Dusk is not my real name. Just a little while ago, you called me a good person, And as soon as you realized I wasn't human, you immediately pointed your sword at me." Dusk said in a displeased tone, "I cannot tell you the reason why I brought you here. However, I will let you go when I am done. You will be free when I take what belongs to me." "Don't be ridiculous. Do you think I should stay here without even knowing the reason?" Aru exclaimed. "But you have no other choice. If you kill me, you won't be able to get out of here. And I know your pity isn't the only reason you didn't leave me there to die." In the tone of a tempting serpent, Dusk said, "Say, you felt it while walking in the woods, didn't you? You noticed that there are no birds or insects here? Complete silence and stillness. Know that I created this space. No one enters or leaves without my permission. There is no way for you to escape." Suddenly, a heavy rain poured down from the sky. "I absolutely don't understand why you don't want to stay in my house. On top of that, I noticed that you hurt your ankle during the fall. It's hard for you to move around now. I suggest you go back to the house." Aru decided not to untie Dusk even in the house. "Look, I noticed some deep scars on your chest. I'm pretty sure they weren't there before. Answer me. Where did they come from?" asked the girl, wiping the dragon's damp hair. "I don't remember," Dusk admitted. The girl remembered that when she tried to grasp the sword during her fall, it seemed for a moment as if the sword went through her. It had hit her in the chest, roughly where the deep scars on the dragon's body had appeared. Could it really have something to do with that? Dusk remembered that as he flew over the ruins, he saw Ara next to the sword. Suddenly, he felt a pain in his chest and fell to the ground. Dusk jumped up sharply, snapping the vines, and fell the girl to the floor. "I don't know if you're naive or still stupid, but I'm getting tired of this. Listen to me carefully. I'm going to end this right now, Sharon." Dusk hissed angrily. "I promise you that I'll bring everything back to the way it was, and I'll take back the heart you stole from me." There was a legend in Sharon's village that many centuries ago, a powerful and terrible creature had existed on Earth. Before Sharon appeared, there was no warrior capable of fighting him. The source of its power was the heart of a dragon. A dragon that possessed this heart could live forever. No one and nothing could kill him. His fire never went out. The dragon itself eventually became a flame. Legend has it that Sharon managed to subdue the dragon and take its heart. Losing its power, the dragon screamed in agony and eventually turned to a handful of ash. He became a lonely little spark traveling the world. Dusk began to slowly draw power from Aru's chest. The girl tried to push Dusk away from her, but he loomed over her like a stone cliff. It seemed that her fist blows didn't bother him at all. "Stop doing something stupid or I'll break your leg." Dusk grabbed the girl's injured ankle. With a loud shriek, Aru stopped kicking. The guy in the white long cloak still managed to break the protective barrier. Jumping to his feet, he ran to Aru's aid. "You better wipe your tears, change your clothes, and wait for me here," ordered Dusk. "I'll take care of one little brat, and I'll be right back to you," promised Dusk and left the room. "Damn, I can't feel anything. Where is he hiding?" thought Dusk, looking around his lands. A man in a long white cloak froze next to a wide tree. He spotted a dragon soaring in the sky. Dusk summoned his subjects and ordered them to search for the man. Aru ran to the door and pulled it open. The door would not budge. "When will all this horror be over? My leg hurts terribly. I'm freezing," the girl thought to herself. "I told you to wait in that room. Why are you walking around the castle?" Dusk suddenly appeared beside the girl. "But I can't stay here. I'm worried about my brother," Aru admitted. "I see you're cold. You need to dry your hair and change your clothes." Dusk wrapped the girl in a towel and took her to the living room. "Sometimes a person with unusual abilities appears among humans. Then creatures like me have a chance to make a difference," Dusk thought to himself. Suddenly, he noticed that his fingertips began to slowly turn to ash. "I need to get my heart right away." Waking up, Aru noticed a table set up next to her. The girl decided not to refuse to eat. After all, She would definitely need her strength in the future. She still hoped that she would be able to find a way to escape from this palace. I do not understand why this dragon calls me Sharon. I am not her. The great warrior died 1,000 years ago. She sacrificed herself, becoming a legend for centuries. This dragon must have gotten the dates wrong. He's forgotten what century he lives in. The girl gathered the leftover food from the table and hid it under the bed. She decided to gather some small provisions for an escape. Dusk entered the room. Luckily, by this point, the girl had managed to get back to the table. "You're still eating?" Surprised Dusk. He noticed that the girl was looking at him with some unkind eyes. Maybe she's not feeling well? Does she have some kind of pain? Dusk reached out to touch the girl's forehead. Startled, Aru hit him in the face with a pillow. Dusk ripped the pillow into 2 halves in one motion. The room filled with fluff. Why do I feel like this girl is getting stronger and no longer afraid of me? She definitely won't let me touch her now. But anyway, there's an ordinary person in front of me, Dusk reminded himself. All I have to do is wish, and I'll take everything I need from her. Dusk reached his hand toward the girl, but stopped when he noticed the terror in her eyes. He felt sorry for her for some reason. Turning around, Dusk walked out of the room. What's wrong with me? Why have I become so soft? For 1,000 years, I've strived to keep my mind sharp. What has gone wrong? I must put an end to it. Only by killing Sharon with my own hands can I finally regain what I've lost. Phew, he's finally gone. Gotta pull myself together and try to get out of here one more time. My leg doesn't hurt anymore and I feel great. I'm sure I'll be able to escape. All that's left is to find a way out of these lands. Aru thought to herself. Look, let's talk to you. Swinging the doors wide open, Dusk burst into the room. All this stuff I don't need, so you can have it. Dusk brought a large amount of different dresses and things into the room. Besides, if you need anything, just tell me about it. I'll do my best to make you feel comfortable in my house. Still, he's acting very strange. First he tried to take my heart, and now he's showering me with gifts. Also, he's probably the one who healed my ankle, and he keeps feeding me all sorts of goodies. Aru thought to herself in surprise. And it's completely unclear to me where he got the woman's clothes. It's unlikely they belong to him. He's clearly up to something. Pardon me for asking, but where did you get all this stuff? Asked Aru. These things were given to me by my subjects when magic was commonplace and used everywhere, answered Dusk. I certainly find this hard to believe, but are you really a dragon? I've heard many legends about dragons. They are described as strong, intimidating, unintelligent creatures. They lie all the time and are big egotists. Narrated Aru. All of these legends were made up by humans. It's actually a little different, grumbled Dusk. But since you are a dragon, you must be several thousand years old. I'm sure you saw Sharon herself at one time. Tell me what she was like, the girl asked. You better tell me what you're hiding from me. Stepping forward, Dusk asked. I don't know what you're talking about now. I'm not hiding anything from you. I heard many legends about Sharon as a child. We were told that she was a great warrior. All the children in our village dreamed of being like her. The girl muttered fearfully. So that's what you think of her. Do you consider her a hero? And if you're interested, I can tell you about her. You praise her in vain. The truth is, she was small and weak. She looked scared and exhausted, far from being a warrior. Dusk began to narrate. Sharon was a person who could barely understand herself, and the latter was the worst trait of her character. All in all, she was full of complexes and insecurities. You are the truest coward. How can you defame the great name of a warrior? I don't believe a word you say. In an angry voice, Aru exclaimed, Sharon was a brave and mysterious giant. Her height was 2 meters and 50 centimeters. She could crush a mountain or the sea with one hand. She was a kind and magnanimous, righteous person whose tears were shed only for the weak and pitiful people. And how could anyone believe such nonsense? A woman can't be over 2 meters tall. Again, these people have made up all sorts of nonsense. Dusk thought to himself dejectedly. I gather from your monologue that you want to be like Sharon, so you want a dragon's heart, too, Dusk concluded. To be honest, I never really thought about it, but if I were Sharon, I wouldn't kill the dragon. I'd tame it and use its powers with good intentions. Aru muttered thoughtfully. That girl is a bit silly. I mean, how can you tame a dragon? It's not like he's some kind of animal. Dusk thought to himself. Okay, try. Tame me. I'll give you a chance. Dusk walked up to the girl and touched her face. Great idea. Let's do that. Aru exclaimed and patted Dusk on the head. With such actions, she wanted to drown out the sound of her frantically pounding heart. The girl noticed that when Dusk came close to her, she felt panic and embarrassment. Look, would you please fulfill my request? Take me for a ride, just once. In the beginning, Dusk wanted to refuse the girl, but eventually he still agreed. Dusk, let's fly with you over that mountain over there. The girl asked, but the dragon refused her. There were traps set around the perimeter of his lands. They protected him from enemy attacks. Dusk noticed that when he was near the girl, he gradually recovered. His fingers took their former shape. The heart inside her was having a beneficial effect on him. It's certainly good that she's healing me with her presence, but I have the ability to solve the problem in one fell swoop. Should I go back to my original plan after all? If she's dead, then there must be a body. We've already searched everywhere, but there's not the slightest trace of her here. We can't find her. I'm sure she set fire to the house on purpose to escape. Uncle Aru hissed in an angry tone. There's no point in taking care of pathetic orphans. We took her in, and this is how she repaid us. And I insist that you stop drinking and continue your search for Aru. I'm sure she and her brother Zephyr are alive. Aru's friend, Bella, exclaimed. Suddenly, Dusk pushed Aru off his shoulders. The girl somersaulted and flew downward. You're treating me like some kind of transportation, resented Dusk. He picked the girl up in his arms. No, it's not like that at all, Aru replied. Dusk brought the girl to a large, flowery clearing. Look at this beautiful meadow, shouted the girl and rushed after the butterfly. It behaves just like it did 1,000 years ago, grumbled Dusk to himself. Saying that she needed to go to the bathroom, Aru headed deep into the forest. In the forest, the girl found a small river. She assumed that if she followed the course of this river, she would surely come to some settlement. A little further away, Aru found a large ice floe. Inside, it was a frozen monster. Next to the ice floe were fresh human footsteps. The girl was excited about the find, as she finally had a way to get out of here. Suddenly, a large chunk broke off from the ice floe and fell right on top of the girl. It hurts, but it's not critical. I've noticed that lately I've been practically pain-free. Also, I've started to notice that my physical strength has increased. Sure, I'm in good shape, but not to the point where I was breaking objects around me. Maybe Dusk is right after all, and I am a rebirth of Sharon? But why are my powers only starting to manifest now? And does transmigration of souls even exist? And if in the past, I was still the great warrior Sharon, then it turns out that Sumrak and I are sworn enemies. Suddenly, everything swam in front of the girl's eyes. She felt very dizzy. The girl felt a strong pain in her chest. It seemed that just a moment more and her heart would melt. You've come at last. Well, how long have I been waiting for you? Did you really get lost? Grumbled Dusk, noticing the girl approaching. Aru stretched out her hand, and immediately a sword appeared beside her. The girl looked at Dusk with fierce green eyes. Suddenly, Dusk held out a small blue flower to the girl. Out of boredom, I even picked some flowers, so here you go. I'm sure you still like this flower. Feeling faint, the girl lost consciousness. When Aru opened her eyes, she realized that Dusk was holding her tightly against her. The girl noticed that her entire face and hands were covered in blood. Startled, Aru bounced away from Dusk. Try not to make any sudden movements. This is the power of your magic. Your heart has accumulated too much mana at the moment. That's why you're in this state, Dusk explained. Snuggle up to me. I'll take away the excess of your power. I didn't see that coming. Her magic manifested too quickly. Something must be done to keep the mana from destroying it. Dusk thought to himself. Dusk remembered how once upon a time, long ago, Sharon had loved to sit on his back. Sharon, do you have to hang on me? You look like a cicada stuck to an old tree. Don't mind me. I just want to be close to you, and as close as possible because I'm nervous again, replied the girl. Dusk tried to explain to Aru that she needed to learn how to control her magic. Until she could do that, he would have to constantly touch her to take away the excess of her power. Body contact is simply necessary if one is to take away another's magic. The more points of contact, the quicker a person feels better, and it will be much better if we touch each other's naked body parts, Twilight said, embarrassed. Aru and Sumrak agreed that the girl would lie on top of him daily so that he could take away the excess of her power. Are we crossing the line too much lately? Dusk thought to himself once. I need to wait a little longer until her heart is ready. Then all my torment will end in an instant. Suddenly, Aru's whole body shook. Her nose was bleeding again. Literally, out of thin air, silver chains materialized and bound Aru's heart. Damn it! Those bastards got to my heart again! Dusk roared angrily. My oversight is that I noticed those chains too late. It cannot be allowed to happen again. Dusk erupted in bright flames, destroying the silver chains. Dusk, what happened? Opening her eyes, the girl asked in surprise. She felt an unusual lightness in her body. Someone put their hand on your body. An unknown person put a seal on your heart. It prevented your heart from releasing its power. I'm sure the wizards did it. When was the last time you had contact with them? Dusk asked. What wizards? Aru wondered. Okay, whatever. It's okay now. Let me lay like this so I can feed off of your power. Dusk asked the girl and lay on top of her with his whole body. I wish I could remember what my magical power is and what it is, Aru thought to herself. Dusk felt the girl's heart fully recover. Aru made an effort on herself and lit a nearby standing torch. She decided to practice a little every day to learn how to control her magic. Dusk, did you see? I finally learned how to make fire, the girl exclaimed joyfully. Dusk stood with a displeased expression on his face as always. I don't know how it happened, but a power has suddenly awakened in me. My power is similar to that wielded by Dusk. Also, I began to notice that in the past few days, he has become very brooding. I think there's some kind of problem eating him up. Aru thought as she watched Dusk. I guess he wants to take my heart. If only I could transfer my power to him, he would definitely let me go home. Too bad I can only make fire at the moment. No other skills I possess. Dusk, let me go home. I really miss my little brother. I also want to see my friends. And if you want, I'll come back here with them so you don't have to live in this house alone, Aru suggested. Are you seriously suggesting I live with humans now? Clarified Dusk. And why wouldn't I? You're very strong and can use magic. I'm sure people will admire you. And if you help people using your magic, they will treat you with gratitude. Also, I will be able to put you in my arms every day. And when I die of old age, you can take my heart. How's that for an idea? You have absolutely no idea what you're saying. In the past, I've exterminated entire cities of people. Anyone who meets my path, I wish to tear to shreds. I don't want to live with humans, and they will never accept me, replied Dusk to the girl. Do you still want to kill me? Asked Aru. The girl's question made Dusk hesitate. I know that in the past, I was your nemesis. You have been planning to rip my heart out of my chest for centuries. At this point, I've decided that you and I are finally friends. Friends may hurt each other with a word or some rash action, but they will never kill each other or cause physical harm. When I was little, I wanted to tame a dragon, but now I realize that's stupid. Back home, Aru picked up her sword. She decided that if Dusk did intend to kill her, she would not stand idly by. No matter how much it hurt, she would have to destroy him. Unexpectedly, the sword in the girl's hands lit up with bright flames. A young boy wearing a long white cloak appeared in front of the girl. "Where am I?" mumbled the boy. "Lady Aru, is that you? And what's going on now? The sword suddenly glowed and he appeared. Does he have something to do with the sword?" The girl thought in surprise. "Lady Aru, what a blessing that you are unharmed. Please put down your sword. I came here to get you out of trouble. I am not your enemy. I was sent here by the people of the temple," the boy explained. "Looking at you, the name Morian comes to my mind for some reason. Your name is Morian, am I right?" "Have we met you somewhere before?" asked Aru. "So you remember me," surprised Morian. "Of course. And do you know how long I've been looking for you? But how did you end up here? There's a protective barrier all around. How did you manage to get around it?" Aru inquired. "Sharon, open up! I want to see you!" shouted Dusk and knocked loudly on the door. "You need to leave. It's Mr. Dusk," said the girl to Morian. "Dusk, is something wrong? It's getting pretty late. Why are you still awake? I'm tired and I was about to go to bed. And if you have something to say to me, then say it faster," asked the girl. Dusk noticed that the girl was behaving rather strangely. He took a quick step into her room. "There's an unfamiliar odor in your room," said Dusk, entering the room. "What odor? What are you talking about now? I ate yams during the day. Maybe that's why," assumed the girl. "No need to guffaw. Your room smells like an intruder," said Dusk and began to explore the room. "A dragon without a heart. But even so, I have no chance of winning a face-to-face duel. My only advantage is surprise," Morian thought to himself. Dusk scanned the room, but other than Aru's soul, he didn't see anyone. "Dusk, give me a hug. I know you came to my room for a hug," the girl exclaimed and spread her arms to the side. Dusk hugged the girl and rested his head on her shoulder. "I thought you were in a bad mood right now. Coming here, I noticed you were in a good mood. That made me feel better." Dusk took the girl in his arms and carried her to the bed. "I'm going to be with you tonight. And even if you don't mind, I'll still stay here." "What do you mean? I'll be with you. There is a person under this bed. What should we do? We have to think of something right away." Aru thought fearfully. "Why aren't you sleeping?" asked Dusk and kissed the girl's neck. "Hey, wait, what is it you decided to do?" exclaimed Aru fearfully. "I don't like that there's a foreign odor in your room. It's the smell of a man," replied Dusk. "Sharon, I never had any desire to kill you," suddenly admitted Dusk. "I would like to remind you that my name is Aru. I don't like it when you call me by someone else's name." The girl was indignant. "You have my heart beating in your chest right now. That proves what you are, Sharon." In a calm voice, Dusk told the girl, "Good. Then let's talk to you about the heart. There is one point that is completely unclear to me. In the beginning, you said you wanted to kill me to get the heart. Now you're saying you don't want to kill me. What does all this mean?" Aru asked. "There is one way to take your heart without hurting you in any way. It's something like magic," replied Dusk. Suddenly, Morian, who was sitting under the bed, sneezed loudly. "Is someone there?" surprised Sumrak. Aru grabbed Dusk's head and turned him around. "Don't get distracted by insignificant sounds. You'd better tell the rest of what you started to say. What magic method are we talking about now? This is very important information for the two of us. We can solve our problem in one fell swoop." "You said yourself that you don't want to kill me. In that case, let's join forces. I'll give you back your heart, and you let me go home. Go to bed. We'll talk to you about this next time." Dusk pushed the girl back onto the bed. "There, she's finally asleep. Since the sleep spell was used, she'll sleep like a murdered woman for a while. Now it's time to find that bastard," thought Dusk, getting out of bed. When Aru opened her eyes, it was already morning. Looking under the bed, the girl found no one. "He disappeared. What happened this night? Where did Morian go? I really hope he's okay." The girl went in search of Morian. She was afraid that Dusk had dismembered and eaten him. "Lady Aru, I'm here, Morian, who appeared from behind, said in a quiet whisper. Startled, the girl cried out loudly. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to scare you. To dodge the dragon's eye, I concealed my body. My cloak has a protective concealing function. You can open yourself from other people's eyes just by putting on the hood. To be honest, the fact that we are still in the dragon's lair scares me a bit. It's not safe to stay here. Aru noticed that Morian was upset about something. She also noted to herself that after many years, he hadn't changed one bit. He was still the same mysterious and inscrutable person. Aru had met Morian many years ago. It happened the day she accidentally fell into the water and began to drown. Seeing the man in distress, Morian immediately rushed into the water. Aru still remembered that miraculous rescue. She wanted to thank Morian, but he suddenly disappeared. More than 7 years had passed since that time. Mr. Dusk once told me that there was a protective barrier around his lands that no one could pass through. So how did you end up here? Asked Aru. It was all because you called me, replied Morian. What do you mean? The girl asked, perplexed. Lady Aru, I will give them a more detailed explanation, but a little later. First, we need to get out of this place as soon as possible. I am a priest of the Anti-Dragon Order of Praus, and I came here to protect you from the dragon. Lady Aru, it has long been known to us that you are the reincarnation of the great hero Charon, said Morian, and got down on one knee in front of the girl. If a dragon gets your heart, a terrible tragedy awaits the world. Dragons are the living embodiment of natural disasters. Come, I'll take you to a safe place. Aru felt her heart prick painfully. As a child, she had heard many stories of dragons that swept away everything in their path. She had been taught that dragons couldn't be good. But Dusk was different from what she had heard from humans. Are you sure that Dusk is a bad dragon? Aru asked in a quiet voice. What are you talking about? Morian marveled. My words may seem strange to you, but Dusk is not that ruthless. And there is nothing wrong with him seeking his lost heart. I don't think my fleeing with a dragon's heart beating in my chest is the right decision. Lady Aru, do you really intend to return the heart to the dragon? Morian asked. The girl nodded silently in response. Now we have a serious problem. The kind and naive Aru believed everything the dragon told her. Morian thought to himself wistfully. Forgive me for my rudeness, but I have no other choice. Morian exclaimed and grabbed his staff. At the same second, silver chains flew at the girl from all sides. I noticed that an ice-commanding mage was wielded here. That day, the girl's heart was also hidden by this mage's chains. His power had already helped me resurrect once before. But will it help me now? Thought Dusk as he walked around his lands. This mage has chained the heart to prevent magic from circulating through the body. The reason why someone would go to such a step is because they want my heart, too. Without noticing it himself, Dusk reached the ruins. He remembered that many years ago, this was where he had proposed marriage to Sharon. Damn, what the hell did I do? What am I supposed to do with him now? Aru thought, leaning over Morian. Lady Aru, whispered Morian. Look, I didn't mean to do it. It was an accident. Aru muttered fearfully. She hadn't expected herself to kick the man who had once saved her from ruin. I'm sorry, this may be hard to believe, but just now my body started moving on its own. I don't understand how that happened myself. Morian knew that Aru had never been trained in swordsmanship or martial arts, but a moment ago she had acted as if she were a skilled swordsman. Morian reminded himself that the girl was the reincarnation of a warrior. Could it have been otherwise? But be that as it may, I believe you are to blame for what happened. You yourself overreacted by pulling out a weapon, the girl remarked. Lady Aru, I realize I have not earned your trust. However, you need to get out of here. Please believe me. I know you miss the outside world. You long to see your friends and your brother. Without looking the girl in the eye, Morian said. Entering the house, Dusk noticed the girl with a large armful of food behind her back. These foods the girl wanted to give to Morian. It turned out he hadn't eaten in days. "Did you accumulate all these foods because you're going to run away from me?" Dusk asked, and with a sharp movement untied the handkerchief around the girl's neck. The groceries fell to the floor with a clatter. "There is no need for you to smuggle groceries out of my pantry. I'll let you go home." "Why should I?" Aru wondered. "I'll let you go, but I'll ask for something in return. I'll come visit you sometimes, and promise me that you'll spend time with me." Asked Dusk pulled the girl tightly against him. "He's lying. The dragon will never give up his heart. I think his purpose is to reassure you and make you more vigilant. He is a cunning serpent, after all," said Morian after listening to the girl's story. "Let's, as planned, make our escape tonight. I'll head out right away to check for escape routes." But I sensed sincerity in his words. "I don't need to run away. I believe Dusk will let me go home." Aru objected. The girl noticed a light in the dining room. She went down to check what was going on in there. As she entered the dining room, she saw a sumptuously set table. "Are you still awake?" asked Dusk, who approached. He told the girl that he had decided to have one last dinner together for her. "You know, I'm getting the impression that we're about to celebrate my birthday. I'd like to point out that I just recently turned 19, Aru admitted. "Sorry, I still can't get used to the human age. Is 19 years old a lot or a little?" asked Dusk. "In our village, 19 is an important milestone. It is when a person is considered an adult. That's why I was looking forward to its coming," explained Aru. "According to the traditions of our village, when a girl comes of age, a young man who has already gone through the coming-of-age ceremony dances with her as her partner. All the villagers bring their congratulations to the girl." "How about dancing with me?" Dusk held out his hand to the girl. "Of course. I'm not sure I'd make a worthy partner since I haven't danced in a while, but it's still worth a try." A beautiful melody began to play. Dusk and Aru swirled in a dance. "And how often are you going to visit me? Do I have to wait for you once a month, once a year, or daily? Or have you decided to hate me after all?" Dusk asked the girl. "Why on earth would I hate you?" Aru wondered. "No, I know you will hate me," said Dusk and suddenly pulled the girl against him. "You already took a similar step during our wedding ceremony. It was because of your dislike for me that you did this to me, am I right? Sharon, it is time to break our fateful bond. I would like to point out that it was a pleasure meeting you." Suddenly, Dusk thrust his sharp claws into the girl's back and tried to rip out her heart. "Goodbye, Sharon," Sumrak whispered and wept bitterly. Years ago, Dusk had given his heart to Sharon, for he loved her. Now he met Ara, who was an exact replica of Sharon. There were only slight differences in appearance between the two girls. "I've been waiting for 1,000 years, for the moment when I could finally get my heart back. You have absolutely no memory of what you did to me, do you? I remember every little detail. A quick death is too luxurious a gift for you." Suddenly, Dusk felt a wild pain in her right arm. In an instant, it crumbled into ash. Dusk pushed the girl away from him. Aru opened her eyes and sat on the floor. She saw Dusk squirming in pain. Most likely his magic power was exhausted. "Is the heart protecting her?" marveled Dusk. At the same instant, a protective dome appeared around the girl. "How dare my heart not recognize its master?" Dusk became angry and burst into flames. "What the hell has gotten into him? He told me himself he didn't want to kill me." The girl watched as Dusk's right hand reappeared out of the flames. The girl broke out of the protective dome and hurried to the door. Unfortunately, the door was locked. "Stand still, Sharon," said Dusk. The girl was immediately surrounded by flames. "What's going on? Why are you acting like this? You're the one who told me you'd let me go home. You said you knew a way to get your heart back. Then what's this all about? Why are you doing this to me?" Aru felt tears streaming down her cheeks. "I'm finally free from my empty dreams," answered Dusk. Suddenly, Dusk threw a flame of fire at the girl. As if out of thin air, her sword appeared in front of Aru. A sword? Where did it come from? Aru wondered. Since you decided to point your sword at me, you're certainly ready for the consequences, said Dusk to the girl, and threw the fireball at her again. Dusk used the fire to knock the girl's sword out of her hands. Flying up to Aru, Dusk looked carefully into her eyes. Goodbye, Sharon, said Sumrak and swung his clawed hand. Suddenly, Morian appeared in front of the girl. He covered her with his body. Dusk thrust his clawed hand into his chest. Lady Aru, run! Morian shouted and created a high ice barrier. Aru frightenedly froze in place. She didn't want to leave the injured Morian behind. Don't just stand here, run. His heart should be as far away from him as possible. That's the only way to stop him. So you're the pathetic little rat who snuck into my house, growled Dusk. Obedient to Morian, the girl took off at a run. I would like to point out that as a normal human, you are very good at magic, but you will never reach my level. Well, there's only one thing left for you to do, Dai. Dusk took Morian by the throat and lifted him high above the ground. Aru couldn't run far as she was hindered by the flames. The girl saw sharp arrows strike Morian's back. Well, now you are truly finished, said Dusk and swung to strike Ara. Suddenly, Morian jumped to his feet sharply and covered Dusk with ice. Even if I sacrifice my life now, I still won't be able to defeat the dragon. All that remains is to pray that I have the strength to hold it back for at least a little while, Morian thought to himself. The ice barrier collapsed. Dusk, in his true dragon form, burst out into the open. Quickly answer where you got your magic cloak, demanded Dusk to Morian. Morian, get down! Shouted Aru and tried to chop off Sumrak's head. The dragon managed to dodge the blow. Of course, with such agility, you can't be afraid of any sword, Aru exclaimed. The girl noticed that Dusk felt afraid of her sword. If I am truly a reborn Sharon, then skillful wielding of the ball is my essence. But how do I awaken this skill within me? The only thing left for me to do is to act intuitively. Aru thought to herself. How could I believe him, since I know the story of the creepy dragon and the warlike Sharon by heart? It's not for nothing that this dragon is called a natural disaster, an enemy of mankind, someone who should definitely disappear from this world. Aru wanted to stab Dusk in the throat, but he grabbed the tip of her sword. Morian jumped up to the girl and pulled her aside. And what made you think you could escape me after all? This time I will end our fateful bond with my own hands. In an angry voice, Dusk growled. Suddenly, long silver wings grew from Morian's back, and he fluttered out the window. Morian, can you really fly as well? Aru wondered. Yes, I can fly, but right now my strength is running low. Just a little more and I'll pass out. Get ready. I'm about to break the protective barrier. Please help me and strike with your magic power. Dragon power can only be balanced by dragon power. With a loud shout, the girl released a flame of fire from her hands. The protective barrier collapsed. When they found themselves outside the barrier, Morian immediately lost consciousness. The girl hoisted him on her shoulders and dragged him to safety. On the way, they came across a ruined temple. Luckily, it contained the necessary medicines and bandages. Coming to his senses, Morian treated the wound and bandaged them up. My whole body aches, but luckily there are no serious injuries. Thank my cloak for that, Morian thought to himself. Look over here. At the top of this temple is a statue of Sharon, exclaimed the girl, looking somewhere upwards. Our church stands against dragons and other things that threaten the world order. Statues of Sharon are placed all over the continent, for she is our hero, Morian explained. Morian dropped to one knee in front of the girl and began bandaging her injured legs. Lady Aru, I need to examine your wound on your back. The girl turned her back to Morian and pulled her dress down. Morian gasped in surprise. The wound had healed, leaving only a scar. Morian picked up a jug and went to fetch water. As he approached the ruins of the temple, Morian heard the girl's distraught voice. And how could I believe such a liar? I mean, he told me he would let me go. He swore he knew a way to get his heart safely. Why would he do that to me? the girl muttered. Morian plucked apples from a nearby tree and took them to the girl. He offered to take a bite while dinner was being prepared. From now on, our journey lies to the east. We will first visit the nearest town and get the essentials. Then we will board the wagon that is headed to the temple. Morian shared his plans. If you trust the temple, I can guarantee your complete safety. Prominent knights of the temple will stand to your defense. Morian, when can I finally get home? I'm very worried about my little brother. When will I be able to see him? Aru asked. As of now, I know that all of your family members are safe and sound. You have nothing to worry about. You had better refrain from thoughts of visiting your home village, at least for the time being. The dragon will definitely be looking for you there, replied Morian. Lady Aru, you have a great battle ahead of you, so do not be distracted by extraneous worries. Love, family, and mutual trust are only found in the survivors. You must survive, and then you will have it all. But you will have to fight the dragons for the rest of their lives. Only when they are extinct will mankind finally breathe a sigh of relief. There is a belief that dragons are closer to natural phenomena than to living things, much less humans. They are something like a forest fire. But whatever the flame is, if there is nothing to burn, it will soon be extinguished. Without a heart, it's only a matter of time before the dragon disappears. From Morian's words, I understand that Dusk will die soon. But do I want him to die? Did the fear of death cause him to do this to me? The answers to these questions are unknown to me at the moment, thought Aru before going to sleep. Looking at the apple, the girl remembered being treated to them by Dusk. I cannot weep until I die. If my spirit is in decline, it won't be easy for Morian either. Whatever falls to my lot, one must always eat well. Anyhow, escape is the only way out of this situation now, the girl convinced herself. I don't care if Dusk tricked me or not. It's only necessary to be in his clawed clutches again, and you can say goodbye to your life. By the way, where's Morian gone? I thought he said he was going to look around. Suddenly, Morian appeared before Aru in a cloud of flames. The girl looked at him in surprise. To her, Wyatt seemed that he could only control ice. Lady Aru, I want to tell you that this magic cloak once belonged to Lady Sharon. It is a relic, passed down from generation to generation in the Church of Prouse, Morian explained. When I was given this cloak, I thought the story was over-exaggerated, but now I am convinced that I was able to answer your call only because of this cloak. Suddenly, Aru noticed a flock of birds taking to the sky. On the horizon, she saw several monsters. Those are the monsters I saw earlier on the riverbank, aren't they? They were encased in ice, the girl exclaimed. Morian pulled the girl down to the ground and covered her with his body. Be silent. They are wyverns. They usually obey the dragon. Most likely with their help, he's looking for you, whispered Morian. Morian once told me that his cloak is an excellent camouflage armor. You can use it to conceal your presence. 2 people can be hidden under the cloak. I wonder why Morian's heart is pounding so loudly. The girl thought to herself, is the sound of a human heartbeat originally so audible? When I was near Dusk, there was complete silence all around. All I could clearly hear was the beating of my own heart. I distinctly remember my heart racing when he was around. It turns out that only my heart was beating, because Dusk doesn't have a heart. It's in my chest right now. But is it conceivable that my heart and his were beating frantically in unison? No, there is no such thing. If he had similar feelings to mine, he would never do such a thing to me. They've flown on, so we can slowly get on the road, said Morian, and grinding the girl up off the ground. Apparently the dragon has sent his vile creatures elsewhere. He is desperate to find you. We must retaliate as well. From this day forward, this cloak shall be yours. Morian pulled off his cloak and held it out to Aru. From the beginning, this cloak has belonged to you. It is your property. I am honored to have the opportunity to pass it on to you, Lady Charon. I don't understand a damn thing. and I still can't get used to being perceived by those around me as a reborn Sharon. To me, this woman is a legendary heroine whose statues adorn the central square of every village on our continent. My name is Aru, and I'm just a girl who wanted to be like Sharon, but in no way was she. Aru thought to herself. The girl didn't argue with Morian, so she took the cloak from his hands and put it on herself. Surprisingly, the cloak fit like a cloak. Most likely there was a spell cast on it that adjusted the size to the person who put the cloak on themselves. "Lady Aru, now that you're ready, let us continue our journey through the wasteland," suggested Morian. "Wait, I want to check something. Since this cloak belongs to Sharon, I can use it to summon her sword more easily," replied the girl and summoned the sword. A moment later, the sword was in her hands. I am now definitely convinced that this sword belonged to Sharon. It continues to protect me. I can't say for sure if I am the reborn Sharon, but her spirit protects me in every way possible, mumbled the girl. "As for the way we travel, it will be a bit unfamiliar to you," said Morian, and hefted the girl onto his shoulders. "Mages are able to strengthen their bodies with magical powers. Even if I run at this speed, I won't get tired, and it will take seconds to regain my strength." "But you were injured, and traveling on another person's back is extremely uncultured," Aru exclaimed. "In addition, if you can move so quickly with your magic power, then so can I. I know that I have a lot of accumulated magic in me." Aru gathered all her strength into a fist and pushed herself away from Morian. Suddenly, the girl rose into the sky. "See, I told you I could do it," the girl shouted joyfully. Suddenly, Aru remembered flying on Dusk's back. "Lady Aru, come downstairs. It's dangerous to do that without training. Fly to me, I'll catch you." Morian held his open palms out in front of him. Aru flew to Morian and fell into his arms. Suddenly, my life has somehow strangely turned into the very fairy tale I heard as a child. My heart is overflowing with joyful excitement, but at the same time I feel fear. Will I be able to survive? Aru asked and cried bitterly. I am scared of what lies ahead of me. Will I be able to endure what I will face in the future? Lady Aru, don't worry, I will protect you, Morian promised. I didn't realize we would pass through the wasteland so quickly. Apparently you have a natural talent for magic. It's very rare among priests. Morian praised the girl. Though I am not lacking in ability either, even I had a hard time chasing after you. I would like to point out that long ago there were people called sorcerers. They banded together for a good cause and became priests. And I always thought that sorcerers had disappeared from our lives forever, Aru admitted. You know, when I was a little girl, a friend of mine became very ill. Her parents, when they heard that a priest had come to the neighboring village, immediately went there through the mountains. I still remember that situation vividly. Her whole body was burning with fever, as if it was engulfed in fire, and no medicine could cure the ailment. I cried in 3 streams as I watched Bella's silhouette recede. Fortunately, the treatment was successful, and my friend returned to our village fully healthy. At the time, I thought it must have been the work of a wizard, and now it turns out my hunch was correct. After all, fairy tales and legends are much closer to us than they seem. By the way, Morian, can you heal people? Yes, I can, but only if the disease is not serious and the case is not neglected, replied Morian. Morian turned back and noticed that where Aru's foot had stepped, green shoots had begun to sprout. The dragon's mana not only healed the girl's wound, but it began to surge outward. Morian threw his silver chains over the girl to restrain the power of the dragon's heart. Suddenly, a protective barrier appeared around the girl and broke his silver chains. Morian, what's wrong? You're acting strange somehow. The girl was incomprehensible to her companion's body movements. I thought I saw a snake around your neck, so I hurried to remove it, lied Morian. Morian, look, there's some sort of town up ahead. Let's hurry up and go to it, exclaimed the girl and hurried towards the town. Morian stopped her by grabbing her arm. Lady Aru, promise me that you will trust me completely from now on. Morian pulled a bright red stone from his pocket and placed it on the girl's hand. Morian, wait, you're acting very strange right now, shouted the girl. Morian didn't listen to Aru's outrage. He tied the stone firmly to her hand. First, you'll stop feeling your hands. Then you'll lose control of your whole body. He's right. I can't feel my body. I'm really scared. Frightened, Aru thought, slowly losing consciousness. Lady Aru, calm down and listen to me. This stone. Morian started to speak, but the girl snatched the stone with a sudden movement and pushed the mage away from her. Aru ran towards the town. Why did Morian change so drastically? It's like he became a different person. The same change that happened to Dusk has happened in him. Why does everyone around me want to hurt me? What am I supposed to do now? I need to find a safe place and hide there. I need to stay as far away from Sumrak and Morian as possible. Morian caught up to Ara and pulled her to the ground. Let me go! The girl shouted loudly. And you don't need to be afraid of me. I'm not going to hurt you. That red stone absorbs fire mana, but there are side effects. You'll be back to normal in no time. Lady Sharon's cloak is unable to stop your mana leakage, Morian explained. A dragon's magical power is limitless, so you need to take additional measures. Please forgive me for not telling you this beforehand. I was too hasty. I really didn't think you would react this way. I was inattentive to your feelings. I sincerely ask you to forgive me for that, but I want to assure you that I have taken an oath. I will never do you any harm. No matter what happens, I will protect you to the end. Please, trust me. Morian put his arms around the crying girl. He began to whisper soothing words to her. After a while, Aru allowed a red stone to be tied to her hand. Morian shouldered the girl and carried her into the city. Freeze, you need to be tested. I've never seen you here before, so you'll have to tell me your name. One of the knights exclaimed and blocked Morian's path. Dummy, can't you see? There's a priest in front of you! Exclaimed the second knight and hit his buddy on the head. He allowed Morian to enter the city. I never realized the entrance to the city was so heavily guarded. And actually, there's kind of an intimidating atmosphere here, Aru thought to herself. Entering the city, the girl noticed that there were a lot of statues of the heroine Sharon. Notice the red stones above the statues? Asked Morian. The girl had to admit that she had absolutely no idea the reason for that. They are all made of a magical mineral mined from the volcano's vent. They can absorb, store, and release the power of fire. At such times, each stone emits a strong light. Narrated Morian. It is said that because of this property of the stones, you can predict the attack of dragons. Now, when a dragon's heart beats in your chest, the guardian stone can also react to you. If the stones glow, the dragon can also notice it. In this way, it will calculate your location. If you use the mana absorption stone beforehand, the statue won't react to your presence here in any way. If possible, keep it with you at all times. That way, you will avoid the commotion and hide your location. Morian, if I remember the legend correctly, the stone statues of Lady Sharon were erected after the dragon died. Why set up the guardian stones then? The girl asked. Yes, the dragon had died by then, but people's fear of it went nowhere. People set up the stones to keep themselves safe, replied Morian. I don't believe all this. Something's not right here. Ran through the girl's mind. Dear priest, I see you have not come alone. Are you just going to eat, or do you want a room prepared? Asked the tavern owner. Morian answered him that he planned to stay one night with his companion. Upon entering the room, Aru fell exhaustedly onto the bed. I thought it would be nice to be in the city soon, but now I have to carry this stone on me all the time, and I feel like all the strength has been drained out of me. I feel like my heart has started beating harder and my body is on fire. This has happened to me once before, but that was when Dusk helped me. As the girl fell asleep, she remembered that Dusk had once asked her how long she had been in contact with wizards. He blamed them for the girl's ill health. Morian wrung out a towel and handed it to the girl. You have a fever. Put a towel soaked in cold water to your forehead. It's you, isn't it? You're the wizard who put his hand on my heart. You're the one who almost killed me, the girl exclaimed. Lady Aru, I had no intention of harming you, replied Morian. And why did you do something like this to me? You put that stone on me against my will, and now you say you don't want to hurt me. You keep saying that phrase, but you don't really explain anything. Aru was indignant. Of course, it's no surprise that Lady Aru suspects me, but I can't tell her anything at the moment. When I get the chance, I'll be sure to explain everything to her. Morian thought to himself. I really always thought you were a good person, since you saved me several times and treated me kindly. But now I'm scared to be around you. I feel like I don't know something, Aru confessed. Answer me, what are you hiding from me? Mr. Priest, you have a visitor. The tavern owner knocked on the door. It is the coachman. I asked the tavern owner to find out where I could get a carriage, Morian explained. Look, you said you were going to the port. I have just the one carriage available, but you should take a look at the horse, said the coachman, who looked into the room. Great, I hear you. Let's talk about it outside, exclaimed Morian, and excitedly jumped up from his seat. Wait, we haven't talked to you yet. Aru grasped the sleeve of Morian's shirt tightly. Lady Aru, wait just a little bit. I cannot explain anything to you at the moment, but I promise to do so in the near future. I want to assure you that my words about protecting you were sincere. Morian gently squeezed the girl's fingers. Stay in this room. I will return shortly. I don't understand absolutely nothing, but this man has clearly messed up, and they call themselves a priest, too, thought the tavern owner, looking at Morian. Once again, my mind is confused, and I'm only up for a moment. Why is my head spinning so much and it's too quiet all around? Because of the silence in the room, random scary thoughts are flying into my head. Aru thought while looking at the ceiling. I'm completely unfamiliar with this area, and the only person I can rely on is Morian. But what will I do if he suddenly turns out to be bad? These thoughts make me uneasy and restless at heart. Have I become too suspicious? Morian had reached out to me after all. Damn, my thoughts are confused again. How hard it is for me to breathe. I feel unbearable pain. My heart is aching and aching. Dusk felt his head explode with pain again. He began to think of Aru a lot lately. There were things left in the house that belonged to her, the dresses and jewelry he had given her. Dusk walked down to the water. He noticed a moored boat that he liked to ride with Aru. Dusk felt his skin began to fall off of him in almost chunks. The tips of his fingers turned to ash. He thought about the fact that he should have hugged Aru one more time. Goodbye. Suddenly, a snake crawled up to Somrak's feet. Dusk realized that Aru had been found. Staggering, the girl walked out of her room. Her feeling was getting worse by the minute. Strange. It's already evening and Morian is still gone. Aru thought to herself. She was feeling wildly thirsty. She urgently needed a drink of water. Suddenly, the girl tripped on the stairs and flew down. Aru fell into the arms of a man standing at the bottom. Aru, is that you? Where have you been all this time? Zephyr asked in a surprised voice. My dear sister, it really is you. Zephyr hugged Aru tightly. Aru, you are alive and unharmed. I was really scared for you. I thought I would never be able to see you again. I'm so glad you're okay. The girl couldn't contain her emotions any longer, so she sobbed loudly. Zephyr, you're not hurt? How did you end up in this town? What happened to our uncle and aunt? Started pelting her brother Aru with questions. Zephyr answered her that her relatives were fine. He wondered where she had been missing all this time. If I start telling you about myself, this will all drag on for a long time. I was more worried about you not getting hurt that day, so you left the house before the fire spread everywhere. It's like a stone fell off my mind, Aru exclaimed. Your younger brother didn't leave the house in time, so his entire body was covered in various degrees of burns. Half of his face, chest, and back were affected. His left leg was crushed by a collapsed wall, said the priest who approached. He could have left the house quickly since he was near the front door, but when in search of his precious sister, he really wanted to save her. What are you talking about now? Aru wondered. Don't worry, he's perfectly healthy now. You've heard of the temple miraculously healing the sick, haven't you? I healed your brother's injuries with my divine power, and I did it with the utmost care. The priest showed the red stone. Are you saying you healed my brother with magic? And I don't understand why he threw himself into the fire at all, knowing that it could have ended extremely badly for both of us, the girl exclaimed. Aru, I'm sorry for upsetting you. I'm really sorry. Zephyr hugged his sister tightly again. I noticed that the horse is eating well, and there are no signs of illness. So why did you ask me to examine her? Asked Morian to the coachman. Hello, Morian. Long time no see, exclaimed the priest who approached. Behind him stood the knights. Seeing the priest, the coachman hurriedly disappeared. Or else I should now call you an apostate. You're not worthy of carrying your title. By the way, where's the magic cloak gone? Did you really sell it? I'd like to remind you that it's not your property. Hi, Alan. It's good to see you too, Morian muttered in a disgruntled voice. The investigation is complete. You are charged with AWOL, disobeying orders, arson, theft of property, kidnapping, fraud, and murder. The priest held out an image of Morian to Aru. He called him a dangerous criminal who should be sought out. This can't be, the girl whispered fearfully. Alan drew his axe. He was a junior knight priest, one of the top 5 fighters in the district. You had better follow me quietly. Remember, pleas for mercy are useless. I have been ordered to simply kill you if necessary, Alan warned. We were able to find out that Morian was headed for the port city, which is in the opposite direction from the temple. He had entered into a contract with slave-trading pirates, narrated Aru, the priest. By all appearances, he got close to you with not particularly pure thoughts in his heart. Now that Morian is not near you, you finally have a chance to leave the city. It would be best if you followed us. Theft, murder, fraud. Morian can't be that kind of person, Aru thought to herself. Sister, eyewitnesses claim they saw Morian outside our house just before the fire. I also noticed him when the house burned to the ground. I asked him for help, but he turned around and walked away, leaving me to my fate. Narrated Zephyr. This is the first time I've ever seen a man so cold in my life. Let's follow this priest together. He will take care of us. I think your acquaintance Morian is too dangerous. I never thought I'd be figured out so quickly, mumbled Morian, leaving the battlefield. Dusk let a pack of wyverns fly in front of him. Look up into the sky! What are those monsters up there? Shouted the people in the town square. All right, I'll go with you. I was heading to the temple anyway. After thinking for a bit, Aru replied. Aru, why are you shivering so much? Are you running a fever? You urgently need to drink a mug of hot milk, exclaimed Zephyr, touching his sister's burning cheeks. Taking a sip, Aru realized that the milk was sweet. She certainly didn't care for it, but Zephyr just hated sweet milk. Look, but how delicious milk is, Zephyr exclaimed, much to the girl's surprise. Back in town, Morian noticed that there were flyers with his picture on them everywhere. Murder, fraud, kidnapping, and selling people. They've got all the crimes of the world in one flyer, Morian muttered irritably. Oh, and the night priests are everywhere. At this rate, Lady Aru may be in danger. We should leave the city with her as soon as possible. Suddenly, the guardian stones above the statues lit up with a bright light. Seeing the red glow, Aru hurried to the window. On the horizon, the girl spotted a pack of monsters. The monsters were grabbing people in the square and carrying them into the sky. Sister, let's get out of here quickly. I noticed that these monsters only kidnap girls with long white hair. You are in danger right now, Zephyr said in a worried voice. Look over there! The men shouted and pointed a finger to the sky. Looking up, Aru saw Dusk. To all ends of the city, Dusk threw fireballs. In an instant, he cut off all avenues of retreat. The city found itself surrounded by fire. Dusk hovered over the city and began to scrutinize the people on the street. I'm looking for a girl with blonde hair and violet eyes. Bring her to me quickly, shouted Dusk to the people standing in the square. Miss Aru, you must leave this city and as soon as possible. And if you use your magic cloak now, no one will see you, said the priest to the girl. But I can't do that. If I hide now, innocent people will die because of me. He's looking for me, and he won't stop until he finds me, objected the girl. But if he takes your heart, then it will truly be over. He's already extremely powerful now, and imagine what will await these people if he regains his former power, the priest insisted. Sister, let's get out of here together. There are a lot of priests in this city at the moment. They will definitely handle this problem, said Zephyr to the girl. Suddenly, Dusk ordered his wyverns to let the humans go. The wyverns unclenched their paws, and the humans flew down with a scream. Raising her eyes to the sky, Aru realized that no priests could save these people. If she didn't intervene now, they could die. But what if things didn't go according to plan? What would happen then?